Hi, I'm Luis Rodriguez, and I'm going to talk about the situation of prisoners in Ecuador and their human rights. So, sadly, we have a lot of background when it comes to prisons in Ecuador. We have a context of violence, we have a context even of gangs that are not only national gangs but international gangs as well that come from other countries. And I think it talks a lot about the government and the ways they're trying to handle the situation because we've seen that there's a lot of slaughtering in these prisons and it keeps happening. So there's a problem with the management of the prisons. But it also talks about the citizens of Ecuador and how we all participate in this sort of systemic corruption that happens in the country. So I would first like to talk about the situation of the prisoners. I think it's a situation that they should be scared of. I think it's a situation that doesn't give you any security of anything. It's a place in which you can die any day because we've seen it happen. It's a place in which you're subjected to violence, even though you don't necessarily have to die to feel it. And so that also talks about the overcrowding of the prisons and how that helps, crimes being committed even from inside the prisons with communication to the outside world. And it does show that the management of prisons hasn't been that good. It shows that we all take part of this somehow, because the reason why they get things is probably because they bribe guards. The reason why they can do these things is because we've seen even drones go to the prisons to bring more things they need, equipment they need, or even for violence. And sadly, the reason why I say that we are part of the problem is because, for example, there's a lot of citizens that bribe cops when they do something wrong, or in general, they bribe some authority that will give them a punishment if they don't. And well, even authorities ask for it instead of the citizen itself saying it in the first place. And so that's what I mean with systemic corruption. There's this corruption in every level of the government and in all the socioeconomic sections of the citizens. And it's important to talk about that because there's a lot of people that like to blame the government for everything that happens in the prisons, but that's not necessarily the case. And talking about the human rights, I'd say that these people, even though they're prisoners, they have a right to be in a sanitized place. They have a right to not be subject to violence. They have a right, at least for peace of mind, and they have a right not to be overcrowded with a lot of criminals. That doesn't really do good to anyone, only to the gangs, because the more you overcrowd, the easier it is for them to communicate, the easier it is for them to overpower other gangs, the easier it is for them to even recruit prisoners that aren't part of gangs into their gang. And so these people don't really have the rights they should have inside the prisons. And even more, it's not only that they don't have the rights, but it also talks about how it's even worse than that. How they're being put in a place from which they don't know they will even get out, even if they complete their sentence. So that's what I have to talk about the prisoner situation and their human rights in Ecuador.